In the center of the structure, she found the core. It looked like a suspended sphere of liquid mirror, hovering without anchors, ringed by spiral struts of pale alloy. Around it, smaller shapes drifted, capsules, vessels, shells. They pulsed faintly, one after another, like heartbeats caught in orbit. When Era stepped forward, the sphere shifted, rippling, reforming, until a face surfaced in the silver. Callan's, not just an image, a presence. Her eyes moved, her lips parted. Era, the voice said again, clearer this time. I didn't think you'd ever come. Tears blurred Era's vision behind the visor. She reached forward without thinking, fingers outstretched. The sphere flowed like water, rippling around her glove, then sank back into calm. What is this? Era whispered. Are you alive? Callan smiled, but there was sadness in it, a delay in her response. Not as you understand it. What happened? We were pulled in. Calliope encountered a field anomaly, not natural, not gravitational. It wasn't a storm, it was a threshold. Something ancient, something that recorded us, layer by layer, like a prism splitting light. Era shook her head. You were digitized. Callan's image shimmered. More than that, our consciousnesses were patterned, interwoven with the matter here. We were turned into structure, into memory, but not lost. You're still you. In here, yes. In here. I remember you. Era stepped closer. Why me? Why the signal? Because I held onto one thing. One tether. One thought that survived every compression cycle. You. Era choked. I never asked you to stay. I never needed you to. Silence stretched between them, deeper than vacuum, fuller than sound. Callan's image shimmered, grew dimmer. There's not much left of me, Era. This field, it takes, preserves by replacing. Eventually, even memory collapses under its own weight. But we found a way to pass on the memory, to transfer what we are into a living vessel. What are you saying? You can take me with you, but not as data, as presence, as part of you. Era stared at her. You want me to merge with you? Callan's voice was quieter now. Only if you choose it. Only if you remember me not just as a face, but as a story. Era's hands trembled. Will I still be me? I don't know. Silence. And then Era spoke. I'd rather be someone who loved you than someone who forgot. She prepped the shuttle without asking for permission. There was no one left to deny her. Ix Delta's oversight systems were automated and poorly maintained. The central AI, damaged in a solar flare months ago, responded to most commands with a rotating list of bureaucratic phrases that meant nothing. It took her less than an hour to bypass the local lockdown and disengage the docking clamps. By the time the shuttle's ignition sequence reached critical readiness, her hands were shaking. She took one last look through the viewport, at the outpost, at the inner corridors, at the place where silence had almost become comfort. Then she entered the trajectory manually. The echo field loomed ahead, waiting. The moment Era crossed the perimeter, the shuttle's instruments began to fail. Not catastrophically, just wrong. The altimeter hiccuped and blinked unreadable characters. The starboard thruster registered negative output, even as the hull continued to turn. Sound inside the cabin warped subtly, not through mechanical failure, but like being underwater, where vibration traveled differently. Even gravity felt sluggish. But worse than that was the sensation in her bones. Like pressure. Not physical, not atmospheric. Memory pressure. Her own thoughts grew heavier, slower. She could recall events from her childhood with razor-sharp detail, yet couldn't remember if she'd eaten that morning. The name of the man who had trained her in neural mapping came to her mouth without prompting. A poem she had forgotten since adolescence surfaced in full. It was as if the field were reaching inside her and sorting. She gritted her teeth and kept the shuttle steady, manually adjusting thruster balance as she slipped deeper between the tumbling masses of the belt. The asteroids were larger here, some hundreds of meters wide, others tangled with thin sheets of ice and metal, and something shimmered between them. Strands of light, or static, blinking in slow pulses. Then she saw it. The object. Nestled in the gravitational shade of two enormous rocks, suspended like an egg in a web. It wasn't a ship. It was too large, too asymmetrical, too grown. Massive ribs of alloy curved inward like a ribcage. Between them pulsed a central core, faintly lit from within, emitting no radiation but casting moving shadows like breath. Era's breath caught. This wasn't from Calliope. This was something else. But the signal, it was coming from inside. She matched velocity with the nearest stable point and adjusted to a hover. The shuttle's landing thrusters misfired twice before holding. The redouts gave up entirely and flickered into black. Every system went to low-power fallback. She exhaled slowly and stood. No EVA alarm sounded when she opened the outer hatch. It was like the station itself wanted her to come inside. The transition into the object was seamless. There was no docking ring, no corridor. Just a membrane, thin, silver, reflective, that parted soundlessly as she stepped forward. It did not cling. It did not resist. It simply allowed. Then sealed behind her. Inside, the world changed. She stood on a surface that was soft underfoot, like compressed soil wrapped in silk. The walls were not walls, but translucent folds of some unknown material that shimmered faintly, like heat ripples through crystal. Light did not come from any visible source, yet there was no darkness. Every corner of the space felt aware, alive. Era removed her helmet. The air was breathable, sweet, warm, and faintly familiar. "Kalen," she whispered. Nothing. Then, ahead, the corridor pulsed. Not a warning. An invitation. She followed. The inner chambers wound like the inside of a nautilus shell, spiraling inward with impossible geometry. Shapes floated in alcoves. Cocoons? Memory cores? She couldn't tell. Some glowed. Some did not. One brushed against her shoulder as she passed, and she felt a sudden wave of sorrow. Not hers. The structure was not just alive. It was conscious. Or, more precisely, it was constructed from consciousness. Everything here felt like memory turned solid. And then she saw the face. In a central chamber, floating within a suspended sphere of liquid silver, a form hovered. It was not a body. It was not an image. It was Kalen. Her face. Her voice, when it spoke, was uncorrupted. Clear. Era. She staggered back. Her knees hit the floor. Kalen's image shimmered. "You came." Era stared. "Is this real?" "Yes. As much as anything here is. I thought you were dead. I am. And I'm not." "What is this place?" Kalen closed her eyes. When she opened them again, the light behind her deepened. A recorder. A translator. A preserver. It caught us when Calliope breached the threshold. It absorbed the ship, then it took our minds. "You're trapped." "No, not anymore. I waited until I could reach you." Era's chest tightened. "Why me?" Kalen's voice faltered for the first time. "Because when everything else started to unravel, I still remembered your name." Era stepped closer. "Are you? Kalen's image smiled. "I am what I remembered of myself, and what the structure allowed to survive. But the core is failing. Thought, even preserved, can't hold shape forever. So why call me now?" "Because you can carry me." Era froze. "What?" "There's a lattice still inside you. From the work we did, the code I helped you write, the part we buried in firmware, it's still there. If you allow it, I can move into you. Not overwrite. Just join." Era felt dizzy. That would change me. Catelyn nodded. Yes. I don't know who I'll be. You'll be us. Era looked down. Her breath hitched. And if I say no? Catelyn's voice dropped. Then I fade. Entirely. No return. The field will consume the last of me. Silence. And then Era whispered, do it. When the sphere opened, the room darkened, not into shadow, but into depth, the kind of dark that wasn't about absence of light, but about presence of meaning. Like stepping into the sea at night and knowing the entire ocean was watching you. Era stood motionless as the liquid surface of the sphere rippled outward in threads. Not tendrils, not limbs. Just flow. Light and memory woven into movement. The strands curled around her arms, her chest, her neck, brushing her skin like breath. She did not feel pain. Only recognition. And then she was no longer standing. She was falling. Not through space. Through thought. She saw herself through someone else's eyes. The first day they met, Era hunched over a broken neural interface, cursing softly, the back of her neck damp with sweat. Catelyn had walked into the server vault holding 2 mugs of synth coffee, pretending not to notice how Era flinched when she spoke. She saw how Catelyn had watched her from across meetings, how she'd smiled privately every time Era corrected someone without raising her voice. She felt the first touch, fingertips brushing a wrist as they passed each other in a narrow hallway. Then the night before launch, a kiss that trembled, a promise unspoken, a silence that had lasted for 10 years. And now, this. Era opened her eyes. She was lying on the floor of the chamber, the silver sphere now still and empty. Catelyn was gone, but not lost, because Era could feel her. Not like a passenger, like a layer of awareness. There were no hallucinations, no voices, no takeover, just an added weight of memory. When she blinked, she remembered not just what she had seen, but what Catelyn had seen. When she exhaled, she breathed with lungs that remembered how Catelyn once held her breath before a transmission. And more than that, she felt known. For the first time in years, someone else inhabited the shape of her pain. Not to take it away, but to share it. She stood slowly. The chamber responded, pulsing brighter. The corridor leading back to the outer shell opened without sound. Time to leave. The shuttle accepted her without protest. As she powered up the systems, something strange happened. Instruments that had previously failed corrected themselves. Telemetry stabilized. Diagnostics realigned. Power output exceeded baseline by 14%, and when the nav system came online, it offered her something new. A path. Not back to the outpost. Not to Earth. A route, pre-written into the shuttle's backup core. Coordinates pointed outward, toward the edge of the system, farther than anyone had charted, farther than anyone had tried to go since the collapse of the jump gates. Catelyn's presence stirred softly in her chest. I saved something. Era froze. What do you mean? Before the end, before the lattice dissolved, I stored part of the vault, compressed it, folded it into a quantum packet. Your system has the hash. You're carrying it. Carrying what? The last record, the knowledge of my people, the fragments that survived, the only complete vault memory left in existence. The realization hit her like weight. The decision to come hadn't just saved Catelyn. It had preserved something far older. And now it was inside her. So now what? She asked aloud. The console chimed. Route confirmed. Coordinates aligned. Era looked through the cockpit glass toward the darkness beyond the echo field, and for the first time in years, she felt not trapped by the stars, but invited. She didn't return to Outpost X Delta. There was nothing left for her there. She left a transmission in the passive array, a partial report, technical and bland. It would be ignored, dismissed, or redacted. That was fine. She wasn't here to be believed. She was here to carry. And to find whatever came next. The stars beyond the known systems called with new tones, frequencies that bent differently against Kalen's presence. Something out there had once shaped the lattice that shaped Kalen's mind. The vault hadn't been an accident. It had been a response, a question sent into deep time. And now, Era carried the answer. The outer edge of the system had no name. On old star charts, it was simply marked as a void corridor, uncharted, untraveled, unnecessary. The Commonwealth had written off deep space exploration decades ago, favoring infrastructure consolidation over expansion. But in the age before collapse, the fringe had been full of ambition, dead satellites, dormant relays, and the final bones of a failed leap toward galactic permanence. Now it was quiet, but not dead. Era drifted in orbit around a derelict relay tower, code point RE0100 and 12A. Its surface was cratered and carbon-scarred, its antenna half-folded into itself, twisted by micrometeorite damage. But her system registered a signal, faint, encoded, layered with lattice resonance. Catelyn stirred again inside her thoughts. This is where it began, where we found the first fragment, long before Calliope, before I ever met you. Era frowned, fingers dancing across the console. How is it still transmitting? Because it doesn't use energy the way we do. It remembers itself into motion, like a gravity well-formed from longing. Era wasn't sure if Catelyn was speaking metaphorically or not anymore, but she understood the meaning. The structure pulsed again, not light, not sound, but intention. And then, slowly, the antenna moved. It unfolded not outward, but inward, spiraling in on itself like an iris. Beneath the broken plating, a small panel glowed, a hexagonal port, humming with power no modern system should have recognized. Except Era's did. Because Catelyn's memories filled in the blanks. Because she knew this interface now. She lowered the shuttle's umbilical line and made contact. The ship shuddered. Inside Era's mind, the world shifted. She stood on a planet that did not exist. Stone beneath her feet, a sky of silver storms. Around her, thousands of figures moved, not human, not alien, but shaped by purpose. Each left trails of light as they walked. Each glowed from within, like vessels of memory made manifest. Catelyn stood beside her, not a voice now, not a presence, but a figure again. Whole. This is the archive, she said, a memory of what came before, what the echo field was trying to preserve. Era turned slowly. What are they? Not a species. A choice. A network of minds that refused to die alone. The sky pulsed. Then a voice, not Catelyn's, filled the space around her. Deep, layered, genderless. Carrier detected. Human designation Era Kim. Neural pattern verified. Quantum core stabilized. Permission to unpack historical strand. Era felt her spine go cold. She looked to Catelyn. Catelyn nodded. It's not dangerous. But once you begin, you can't remove it. Era swallowed. What happens if I said yes? You remember what they remembered. You become the bridge. She paused only a moment, then said, do it. The memory entered her like light through stained glass. She saw civilizations rise and fall, not through war, but entropy. She saw minds stretched across time, choosing to store themselves rather than be forgotten. She saw the construction of the first lattice vaults, organic thought compressed into infrastructure. Then the decay, the drift, the collapse of synchronization, and the final effort, embed knowledge inside the quantum patterns of another species. They had seen humanity coming, not as saviors, not as inheritors, but as catalysts. Because humanity's greatest strength wasn't understanding. It was persistence. She saw the Calliope mission through the eyes of the vault. She saw Catelyn's mind taken in, analyzed, absorbed. And she saw Era's name flash through that space again and again. Catelyn remembering her at every moment of dissolution. Her name became the anchor, a thread of gravity between species, a rope across silence. When the memory ended, Era fell to her knees in the shuttle. Every nerve felt rewired. She saw colors in her instruments now, emotional frequencies encoded as spectrums. She felt intentions in the hum of power around her. And in her chest, Callan wept without tears. "You came for me," Callan whispered. "I always would," Era answered. They were quiet together for a long time. Then the shuttle pinged. The route had updated. One final jump remained. Destination: a world not found in any archive. A lattice seed. A place where the last true vault was meant to be planted. Callan's voice grew stronger. "If we bring it there, they will wake again. Not as ghosts. Not as machines. As memory reborn into form. And us. We become what we choose." Era smiled and ignited the engines. The planet had no name. It drifted in the empty lattice between systems. Unmapped, unsung, untouched. No beacon marked its gravity well. No chart included its orbit. It was hidden not by distance, but by intention. As the shuttle descended, Era saw no cities, no towers, no lights. Only a surface that shimmered faintly under the soft light of a cool blue star, like veins of memory running just beneath the skin of a sleeping world. Mountains curled like frozen waves. Valleys folded inward like scars. The world breathed in patterns, not weather, thought. She brought the shuttle down into a natural basin where strange monoliths rose like ribs from the earth. They were not ruins. They were receivers. She could feel it. Callan could feel it. "This is the place," Era whispered. Callan answered without words, just presence. Resonant. Ready. The cargo module opened on its own. The seed, compact, cold, dense with information compressed into quantum weave, rose gently into the air. It pulsed once, then again. Era followed it out into the windless plain. The seed floated to the center of the basin and began to unfold. Pegels of pale alloy stretched wide, revealing a core of shifting light and language. Symbols that had no alphabet. Sound that had no voice. Era stood back as the earth trembled. Not violently, like someone exhaling after a long, long sleep. Callan stirred. "They're waking." "Who?" Era whispered. "The ones who remember. The ones who remained encoded in the root layer. They're not dead. Not yet. But they needed a conduit. And now, you brought them home." The light in the seed core flared. Beams shot outward, touching each of the rib-like monoliths. The air filled with vibration, harmonic, gentle, like the sound of a choir tuning its first note. Then shapes began to emerge from the stone. Not bodies, forms of energy, patterned silhouettes. Moments froze in mid-thought. Some looked vaguely humanoid, others did not. One held an orb of sound. Another unraveled into strands of light, like starlight seen underwater. They did not speak. They remembered. Era felt it hit her all at once. A wave of recognition. Not hers, but theirs. They saw her. They saw Callan in her. They saw everything that had been carried across the long dark. They did not bow. They did not speak. They simply began to echo. A low, harmonic cascade of resonance rippled outward across the basin. Callan's presence flared bright, filling Era's chest, her skull, her vision. "Era, it's time." "For what?" "For me to go." "No," Era said. "Not now. Not after all this." Callan's voice was gentle. "I was never meant to stay. I was the key, not the message. You are the message now." Era's heart cracked open. "I don't want to lose you." "You won't. I'll be in the archive. Just no longer in your skin. You carried me when I was alone. Now I'm part of something again. And you. What about me? You can stay or return. This world doesn't bind. It invites." Tears blurred her vision. Not from pain. From gratitude. Callan's last thought brushed hers like a kiss. "Thank you for remembering me." Then the light shifted, and Callan was gone. Era dropped to her knees in the basin. The harmonic song around her continued, gentle, rising, as if the whole world were rewriting its name into the sky. She stayed there for a long time, letting the windless air carry the song through her lungs, letting her heart remember what it felt like to carry someone else with her, to be more than one. Then she stood, alone and not alone, changed and whole. The shuttle was silent as she left the basin behind. No messages from Earth, no protocols to update, no orders, just her and the stars. A woman once built by systems and duties, now moving freely through the void, carrying not a mission, but a lineage. The world below faded from view. It did not vanish. Its pulse remained, steady in her memory, a light beneath the ribcage of space. She had left part of herself there, and what she took with her would outlast generations. Kaelin was gone, not dead, transformed. Now one voice in a living archive that would remember everything without possession. That would echo names in the structure of wind and root and starlight. And Era? She chose not to go back. Not to Earth. Not to the outpost. She moved from system to system, quiet, drifting, unknown. She visited fringe colonies, helped repair failing tech, healed old machines. Sometimes she spoke of things that made no sense to the people she met, of resonance and encoded memory, of civilizations that once whispered their thoughts into metal. Most thought her eccentric, some believed her holy. But a few listened, a few heard something in her voice, a few felt change without knowing why. And to those few, she gave fragments, stories, songs, tones carried on crystal slivers. She planted memory in places no one expected it to take root. And it did. Once, on a small orbital hub orbiting a red dwarf, she met a girl who asked, "Where are you from?" Era looked out the window, at the stars, at the silence, and smiled. "I'm from a place where memory is kept and given back." That night, as she lay in the stillness of the station, she dreamed, not of Earth, not of Ix Delta, but of Kaelin, sitting beneath strange trees, laughing again, not inside her mind, but beside her, a presence in the soil, in the light, in the endless echo that would never fade.